Welcome to Sacred Trinity Church. This is Sacred Trinity Church here, and I'm going to take you inside to have a look round. So at the moment we're all set up to be COVID secure, so we've got lots of signs everywhere and hand sanitizer and so on. All familiar sights really, and tonight we're set up for community choir, who will be meeting shortly in a distanced way, but it gives you an idea of the layout of the church. It's a historic building, it's grade 2 star listed. The tower, well, the original building was 1635. The tower remains from 1635, but the rest of the church was rebuilt in 1752. We are blessed with movable pews. These are gathered together at the moment to make room for the community choir at the back. This is the space at the front that will be used by the band when we have a gig, although we keep the altar kind of separate, and we encourage the band not to go behind the altar rail, just to remind people visually that we are still a church. It's quite a flexible space because of the movable pews. We often will have exhibitions, we'll have film nights here as well, and so on. And just to show you the entrance area, which is a bit of a mess at the moment, but this is our cosy seating area where people can, during non-COVID times, people can sit and socialise. And when we have a gig, that's the bar there. We have the beer there and the bar staff behind there, which keeps it a little bit separate from the main event, which is through there. So I'm here with Marie, who is now training for ordination, but has been a member of the congregation at Sacred Trinity. And Marie, tell me some of your highlights of gigs and exhibitions at Sacred Trinity, because you've experienced a few, haven't you?
I have, yes. A definite highlight for me was being baptised in the middle of an exhibition about death. I think the exhibition was called Encountering Corpses. And there were these very striking images of skeletons wearing clothes and jewellery that were decorating the church, and a few other kind of pieces to accompany that. And I was getting baptised quietly in the evening service, and a few of my friends had turned up, and the service was also attended by a bunch of strangers who'd turned up to see the Encountering Corpses and stayed for my baptism.
So another question for you is, when we have gigs and exhibitions and events in church, cultural events in church, does that help to make other kinds of connections possible?
Yeah, I think it does, because even if the person that you're having a chat with at the bar isn't engaged, they can talk to other people, and I've been put in touch with people who are looking for churches by people who wouldn't come to Sacred Trinity for anything other than a gig. I've got a friend who's a practicing pagan, but he enjoys coming to Ara to the goth night. And he put me in touch with someone who had been talking to him about being trans and looking for a place where it would be safe to go to church. And my friend Sean knew from his engagement with Sacred Trinity that we were a community that it was safe to put that person into contact with, that it was safe to give me their Facebook details, and that I would have a chat with them, and that person would have a positive conversation. And I think it's stuff like that has power.
And so hello, say who you are at first, I think.
Hello, I'm Colin. I'm an artist based here and I do lots of weird and wonderful things, exhibitions and goth nights and all sorts of stuff.
I'm Sam, I'm an ordinand on placement at Sacred Trinity, have been for the last 3 years.
So Colin, you're an artist and you've curated quite a lot of art exhibitions at church. What is it that you like about putting on art in a church?
I think for one thing that it engages with the community and allows them or invites them to come into a church space that they might not necessarily have thought of going into, and then once they see the art, then a conversation can begin with the art pieces themselves.
So Sam, tell us, you've been roped into helping on the bar at gigs. Tell us about the experience of working on the bar.
Working on the bar is usually a lot of fun. It's busy, it's lively, you get a lot of people coming in, they're in a good mood, they go into a gig, and because they're feeling kind of buoyant, they do tend to ask questions they wouldn't usually ask. So a lot of people say, are you allowed to sell alcohol in church? And I'll often say, well, yeah, we have a license, but also, we do drink wine every Sunday. And Jesus' first miracle was multiplying the amount of alcohol at a party. So, and they're often quite surprised to hear that. And I think that's, a lot of them do seem to have a picture of religion which is quite dour, and perhaps much more influenced by particular periods of Christian history, Puritanism, for example, than more of the broad sweep of things. They also often ask, is this really a church? Is he really a vicar? Pointing at Andy. Is he your dad? Because we're both bald men with beards. So you do get to just chat with people in a kind of more relaxed atmosphere where I think they feel more comfortable and also more like they're in control of the narrative and the questions, which empowers them to ask what they want, really. And so you'd be surprised how often it does segue into some kind of fairly meaningful conversation.
Brilliant, thank you.
Beer and carols is one of my absolute favourite things that we do. It's an absolutely lovely evening. We get to mull some wine, we get to have some starry night beer, and the place is absolutely packed. It's always really lovely to see. And my friends who wouldn't normally come to church love beer and carols. They absolutely love it. My knitters always come. I've got a friend who doesn't normally go to church. And the first time she came, she was in tears telling me how great it was and how lovely it had been to go to a church for Christmas, because normally she feels like, well, church at Christmas is for the Christians, and gets a little bit nervous about going over the door. But because she's been to Trinity and she's been to the acoustic amnesty nights and she's been a part of gigs and exhibitions there, she knows that Trinity is a safe space where we won't pounce on her and try to convert her. So she's comfortable walking through the door, and she got to experience songs that reminded her of her nan, and it was really special to her to come to that.
Brilliant, yeah. And Beer and Carols is an event that it's not a service, is it? It's also not a gig. It's kind of participation. It's kind of a bit of a crossover, isn't it, in a way? And it's something that is easy for us to do. It's not easy because it's hard work, but it is easy for us to do because we do gigs and because
we get some like of the amnesty crowd and the bell ringers and the everything else, and they're all mixed up together going, this place is really special to the community. Even people who aren't part of the Christian community, the church going community, like they feel like that's a community space they have ownership of. I think that's really lovely.
Definitely, yeah. Brilliant.